Grassroots movements and mobilizations are essential for how a democratic practice and literally how a democracy works. And so you can't have a government structure or you cannot have a law without the will of the people, without people really understanding or believing that that law or that regulation is in their interest. And oftentimes it isn't. And so every time there is a demonstration, an action, or protest, it's a referendum. It's really saying, it's a critique. It's an opportunity to figure out how to change course, how to have a more expansive understanding of what needs to be happening through policy, what needs to be happening through economic investment, what needs to be happening in terms of the overall structure and functioning of society. And so throughout history, we can talk about every single time that demonstrations have come up from the ground and really made it so that there were different kinds of outcomes, there were different kinds of politics, there were different kinds of benefits, whether it's fighting for racial equality through voting rights, whether it's undoing racial segregation as the law of the land with undoing Plessy versus Ferguson through the Brown versus the Board of Education, whether it's the suffragist movement to make sure that women have the right to vote. For example, all of these sort of examples, which are significant because of the political implications of these acts, resulted in a very significant landmark policies being enacted at the national and then local levels. And so it should never be lost on us that these actions are not only cumulative and powerful, but they are essential to how our actual ruling as a society that is governed by law, or the idea of the rule of law, is rooted in these acts. And it is not to just valorize the idea of the law itself and what that can mean, because the law can be damaging. And we know all of the ways that the laws of federal government, of state government, of municipal leaders have been often detrimental to communities that have been wealth extracted, communities that have been separated by race, by gender, by ability, and essentially marginalized in all of these ways. And so if we're talking about at a very deep level, how do you undo that? How do you repair that? Then there has to be a broader understanding of how that consideration includes grassroots actors in thinking, and not just, it can never be about a narrow understanding of experts or a narrow understanding of sort of technocratic leadership that has never delivered for us what we need and what we deserve in terms of a more equitable and inclusive sort of social order, which is still in formation even. And so again, I will always advocate and just talk about the need for grassroots work, efforts and interventions, and how that actually turns into just a much different way of thinking about the future and the now too.